Well, hello everybody, and here's another comment feedback video, and it is the 29th of March 2025, and it's 1:22 p.m. and Dottie and I are hanging out outside. I don't know whether she's visible. Oh, she's right there. She's down there. And so I'm gonna just start reading the comments. So Barb Connor, and remember, Barb is the woman that stood by my side or sat by my side during my whole surgery 12 days ago on the 17th. She went down there with me, sat with me, comforted me, and I'm going to be eternally grateful for her kindness. Barb says, "You're doing great. Before surgery, I thought your doc seemed optimistic. He was spot on regarding recovery," and he was. Lisa Roth, another campmate of mine, says, "Good morning, Rob. Hugs to George and Dottie." Greg Miller says, "Glad you're doing better." Thank you, Greg. And James P60, "I'm glad you're doing okay. I saw you had a bit of a setback due to maybe over rushing into things, but hey, we're human after all. Hope the rest of your healing goes good, and I'll keep doing what I do. Again, I'm glad you're doing better." Cotty Wample, my buddy here in La Posa South, "While getting in bed differently was in fact different. You nearly knocked yourself out." That's right, I got a little bump on the head last week. "Yeah, I have hit my head on things. One time getting cauliflower ear. The ear ballooned up and it wouldn't stay drained, so they had to cut my ear and stitch it back together. Most pain I've ever felt in my life. Ouch. I liken it to taking toenail clippers to your earlobe. Good to see you doing well and no more issues." Nancy Medeiros, "Glad you got everything back under control." "Kindness is better than money" is number 373, Positive News, and Ken Gray says, "Love this story." Ken also says in another comment, "Sounds like you're doing much better today. You know what to look for, so I'm confident that you'll be okay. I have some of those Nordic ice packs that I keep for when I need to ice down sore muscles. I've had them for 8 years now." Judy Fowle, another campmate, says, "Good morning from Buddy and me. Glad you decided to behave. Small increases till your next appointment. I bet the stairs made a huge difference." Let's see. Tamara Lemon, "I know how hard it is to sit still. Seems hard for you to take it easy. It was a little scary when I saw the bruised area. You definitely seem to be learning what your body needs. Proud of you." Yeah, there's no need. Everyone gets bruising on this surgery. Everyone. I don't think there are any exceptions to that. Mario Fuentes says, "Rob, I'm glad your recovery's coming well with no pain, slowly and with support from your friends." Thank you, Mario. Rita M, "Hope you follow your own advice this time. Perhaps keeping the pain you've endured pre-surgery in the forefront of your mind will stop you from overdoing it. Best wishes for your recovery." Gypsy Minstrel says, "Hang in there. This stage will hardly be a memory in 6 months. For me, the pain of recovery compared to the pain before surgery was inconsequential. I was low tech, had several 2-pound bags of frozen peas I rotated for ice. My left leg was 2 inches short from the joints being so far gone I had to learn to walk again. Kept listening to the right and crashing into walls. My wife was with me all the time, so I tucked my fear behind the bravado I wore for her. Don't know if I can handle any more surgery now that she's passed. You look like you're doing great. Positive attitude helps physical healing." I believe that. And Donald Sewell, hey Donald, said, "Glad you're doing well." Rewards of Wanderlust says, "Congrats on new hip. Definitely give it time to heal. I'm a year out from posterior right hip replacement. Changed my life." V. Rumi says, "Where are you? Before we leave La Posa South, we'd love to come visit you." I'm sorry. It's not a good time for visitors recovering here, so I'm trying to avoid visitors. I hope you understand it's tough, it's sometimes hard sleeping through the night. So when I can catch a nap during the day on the recliner, I take it. You never know when that's going to come. Let's see. Renogy Inverter fails to run microwave. I've talked about this video a few times. It's gotten thousands of views, and I did it, I think, 2 years ago. And it was a solution I found when I couldn't find a solution online, and I get feedback on it regularly. Just like this one, Supernova says, "Thank you, this solved it. Solved the problem." Kindness greater than money. Christina Lena has a big heart for that one. The Dusty Cat travels 7 days already. Wow, how time flies. And as I'm recording this, I'm like, this is day 12. This is Saturday. Monday will be the 2-week anniversary. Look at that camera move. Did you see that? It's a little windy out here, but hopefully this mic is keeping everything audible for you. My husband is starting his journey with hip replacement. Glad you're doing better. And great advice, don't overdo it. Jola Janice, you seem to be recovering within normal limits. You know your body. We all heal at different speeds, as do your body tells you. Take care of yourselves. George and Dottie are relying on you. Adventure with merit. Rob, kudos to you for doing this series. Takes the fear away from the surgery. You also have a very real and comfortable way of delivering this information. I would imagine you had a great bedside manner as a paramedic. By the way, totally enjoyed meeting you and Nomadic Dream Herbie at the meet and greet in Quartzsite, as you were one of the big influence to try Quartzsite. As newly retired, it was great to meet you and to say thanks. That's nice. Very nice just for you to say that. Kindness video. Kosternock says, in the evening of life, we will be judged by love alone. St. John of the Cross. 10 rules for changing the world. That's another positive news video. And Ken says, valuable quotes. Barb Connor, Barb's back again the next day. I'm so happy my barrel chair is gone. Thank you. Yeah, my buddy Daryl helped her remove that barrel chair out of her rig, which was, you got a big chair bolted down in your Class C that you don't like. All it is an impediment to your comfort. He got rid of it for her. Raymond Van Lavender. Good morning from the East Coast. He says East Coast. that could be that could work both ways, right? But I think he meant East Coast. Stacy Jones, he's the bionic man. Well, I have a titanium hip here. Hip replacement on the road. Good party. You look a bit in pain today, though. Take it easy. I probably did today. I'm sure you can tell there's no pain whatsoever. Ken says, for the charge controller, power splitter may work. Mel's Big Van Small Word video on how to charge a Bluetti with both an inverter and solar at the same time. Didi Cornell, good morning, Mr. Rob, Dottie, and George. I made it through the whole video, all 70 minutes. You'd be surprised in people that say, you shouldn't do those long videos. You need to stop doing those long videos. And I believed that advice back when I started, but I decided, well, I'm gonna do, when I do a 70 or 80 or 90 minute video, it's not because that's my intention. It just, what ends up happening organically takes that long. So I decided I'm not gonna restrain myself either way. My video may end up being 5 minutes or 90 minutes, who knows? But then I started watching the statistics on the longer videos, and people still watched them. Ken Gray says, the Berkey filter does not remove salt. You need a reverse osmosis filter for that. I got one for less than $30, but I have not tested it yet. And he also says, it's never a pain to watch your videos, even the long ones. There you go. Tamara Lemon. And by the way, with that long ones, I have favorite YouTubers where sometimes the video is really long and I don't watch the whole thing, but I'm happy with what I do watch. In my video, and a lot of people structure videos for like a tease at the beginning and a lead up to it. Like they break it down like you would create a movie or a book, and then there's a big reveal at the end. I don't do that. If there's something teasing or creating curiosity in my thumbnail, you're going to find out about it in probably the first 30 seconds of the video. Oh, Rob, the look on your face, blink twice if you need rescued. Hold on, friend. Don't know what that's referring to. Probably something she saw in the video. I don't know what that was. Pup Camper 58. My buddy, my nurse. my daily full-time nurse. And to tell you I'm grateful, that's Cheryl, that I'm grateful for her and Barb. It's just, words don't do it justice. It was fun getting on camp and getting together lunch with everybody. That's this video that they're commenting on was the hip replacement on the road series number 9, where we went, Daryl and I rode together into town and met everybody at the Outback Pizza place in Quartzsite. Cotty Wample, it hit 102 yesterday. Woo! Thank goodness I had a generator that could run the AC for both my trailer and Cheryl's, so we survived. Chris B says, I'd like Times 3, sad it's closing. Times 3 is a restaurant that's been a staple in Quartzsite for many, many years. And I've been there many times. And it's closing. They sold. The last uncensored Quartzsite viewers. Nancy Lowe says, in it to the end. That was like 70 minutes, I think. That was a 70-minute one. Thank you, Nancy. Judy, we're going to be in the 30s at night. Glad I'm plugged in. Missing lunch again, but not the blazing heat. Judy left camp, and she's out in kind of her home base where her family is in California. Judy says, Daryl, if Daryl can't make it out next season, Jim said he can install my heater. That's if I make it. Not everybody's completely sure what they're doing next year, right? Even me. I'm really probably going to do a season in town in an RV park. Stay tuned for that. Crafty Traveler, you're doing great. Already using a cane, wonderful. As a PT student, I guess a physical therapy student, I actually observed total joint surgeries. If you want to see what happens in total hip surgery, you can search on YouTube. I do not want to see it. I know that. I saw Daryl's ankle replacement surgery, and I got to tell you, it freaked me out. It really freaked me out. These kind of surgeries look brutal. Your body becomes a construction site. Ugh. Eugene Chopin, question. I have a friend who lives in Tennessee. I'm going to be visiting him at the end of August for about a week, and then it's off to Quartzsite for the beginning of the season. Is Cheryl going back to Quartzsite? I would like to have somebody to travel with. Seeing that's my very first time to Quartzsite, new nomad, a little bit nervous. Well, Eugene, I get it, but contacting somebody that you just know through YouTube and wanting to travel with them probably isn't something that's going to work out. What I would suggest is maybe on a Facebook local group where you live, do a posting, or Craigslist too. You can do a posting saying, hey, I'm planning on a road trip to Quartzsite. Does anyone want to travel and tandem with me? You can meet them for coffee, make sure you're compatible, and that's how I'd do it. Christy Lena is, there's Dottie Dog, and she says, dang, 90s in March, note to self, leave queue in February. It happens, it's not predictable what the temperatures are going to be starting in March. But like right now, it's the end of March. March is almost over, and I'm almost in the t-shirt. I'm in the shade, in a t-shirt, and I'm almost chilly, not quite though. And she also says, I watched it all. Thank you for watching it all. And Dame the First says, beginning to end? So I don't think she watched it. Hip replacement on the road. Jim Bertrand, that's another good friend of mine here. Much in the same vein as Daryl. Both Daryl and Jim, there's only one way to describe these two guys. They'll walk up to you, and if you look in any need of any kind, they'll go, do you need this shirt? Because I'll take it off right now and hand it to you. That's what they're about. And that's not an exaggeration. Renee Slater, wow, what an impressive generator. I love those bottles of half and half. The generator's a Harbor Freight Predator 5000 dual fuel remote control generator, and it is a beast. It's on gasoline, it's 3,900 sustained watts running, 5,000 surge. That's why it's called the 5,000. Propane, it's a little less powerful. I'd say 36 or 3,700. Pamela Johnson says, just stopping by to say hi, and you're looking good, young man. Renee Slater says, how fun for you to all to get together and go for pizza. I bet you get tired out. I bet you get tired being out and around. Yeah, it is. It's a little tiring, but it's getting better every day. Naj says, hey, Rob and brother Daryl, with all the replacement, it's funny. There's so many different ways to spell Daryl. My Daryl spells it Darrel. And you know what? I'm not sure whether there's two L's, Darrell. So there's so many ways to spell it. And I just got it wrong. So there's two L's. Rob and Brother Daryl with all the replacement Brother Daryl had. He's now a biotic. He says biotic, but she means bionic man. I bet he sets off metal detectors at the airport. My husband had open heart surgery, has 2 metal plates and wires in his chest, and he gets stopped at the airport. Magic surf, cover your eyes. Remember, you can't unsee it. Well, we just got a gust, and it's about to turn the camera over. I was looking at the weather, and it was supposed to sort of start calming down. JB says, I just had a plate put in my wrist for a fracture 10 weeks ago. I healed well, and you looked like you healed well, too. This was an interesting exchange. Rander Ronde says, Daryl seems very young to have had so many joint replacements. And I said, well, it's from his military experience. Everyone should be grateful for his service and sacrifice for our country. And he says, response to that says, don't get me wrong, I'm not casting dispersions. I was just surprised that someone so young had undergone so many surgeries. All due respect to anyone who has served our country. Well, after that, he went into his original post. Well, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I don't know. They went into their original post, edited it, and added, as an ex-volunteer firefighter who responded to many motor vehicle accidents, wear your seatbelt, Daryl. So they felt that, Daryl mentioned it in the video, says, I know people are going to see I'm not wearing a seatbelt in town. And he said, basically he was saying, I acknowledge it and really don't want to hear the criticisms, but he felt the need to criticize him. And I just said, because you decided to add a criticism into your comment, I will ask that you refrain from commenting on the channel. It's not bad enough, so I'm going to block this person. But, there was some kind of urge there to, in my instinct on the initial was, he seems very young to have had that many surgeries. I wasn't sure, but there didn't seem to be kindness in the comment, but I gave him the explanation without being critical. But then this person seemed to really have a desire to throw out a barb and criticize Daryl under this guise of, hey, I'm just trying to help, that kind of thing. I'm just trying to be of service. I don't buy it. Sorry, don't buy it. Dee Cornett says, good morning, Mr. Rob, Dottie, and George. Aubrey Sweet, good morning, sir. It's good to see that you're up and about so soon after your procedure. Montana Wife says, my like button isn't working again today. I don't know what's wrong with it. Just add one more to your likes, and glad to see you're up and walking around. Someday, when you're all healed up, I'll tell you my horrible story about my last hip replacement. It was a year-long process with 7 surgeries. Pseudonomas, home IVs. It was horrible and all my fault because I waited too long and did not listen to my body. And I was like, that got to me. And I said, I'm so sorry to hear you had that terrible experience. Thank goodness it's over for you. And she says, it's like you said, listen to your body. I miss so many, I'm saying he or she because it says Montana Wife, but a lot of couples share a YouTube channel, so it could be him. I don't know. It's all like you said, listen to your body. I missed so many clues or ignored so many clues that something was going on. And by the time I got to the surgeon, it was way too late. Barb says, hey, your generator is so quiet I can barely hear it. Costner Knox says, gentleman recovering from last week's hip surgery demonstrates his inverter while being filled with self-tracking device. What times we live in. That's very funny observation. Love K to us. Good morning, Rob. You're looking good. Fantastic. How good you're getting around. Keep up the good work. Hi, Cheryl, Barb, and Lisa. Hopefully we can meet up at Deborah's FNL tomorrow. Be safe. She had to cancel that FNL. FNL is Friday Night Live for author Deborah Dickinson's channel. Mario says, great news, your health is greatly improving. We'll continue to pray. Pump Camper says, we enjoyed our morning coffee with Travels with Dottie. Yay. Pamela Johnson, looking good, Mr. Rob. Good morning, George and Dottie. And Tamara Lemon says, looking good. It was especially hard for me to leave Q this year. It's always hard to leave. My sister Margaret was a professional singer for her whole career. And a gig that she had when she was young was on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. And there was a beautiful plant on the water, a beautiful bar with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked over, I think, like a yacht club or something in the water. And she was, it was a piano bar, and she played the piano and sang there. And she loved her gig every year at Hilton Head Island. And she wrote a song, which is on one of her albums, called It's Hard to Leave the Island. John Thorpe, hey Rob, good to see your recovery is back on track. That was a good move with the power cords to keep cool. Just checking for hot spots at the connections. 47 degrees here at the Northeast. Next month will be the start of camping season. I can't wait. Dottie is eating rocks because you were getting all the attention. You can't see Dottie now, but she's behind me laying on her bed. Chris B, glad to see you're doing well. Good points about domicile and taxes. I retired to Reno, Nevada to home base as it was only 2 hours drive from where I used to live and have family near Sacramento. I don't save much on vehicle registration. I have to smog it annually, but State Farm does have a motorhome policy in Nevada that they don't offer in California that cut my insurance in half for my ProMaster van with an aftermarket build. I just had to send my receipts for the build and photos, plus there's no state income tax, and my property taxes went from $12,000 per year to $800 per year for my small vintage bungalow. Good move there. Camp Dog, I think it would be a good idea to check the extension cord connections, plugs, to make sure they don't get hot. That would be a common place to have resistance, even if the gauge of the wire is sufficient. Cord to cord, cord to generator, cord to RV. John Barba, hey Robert, you're looking great. I'm looking forward to your domicile insights. RV Life says your gray shirt works for you. The only thing I don't like about the gray shirts, I triple checked on sizing, and they're way too big, and I'm hoping I can put them in a super hot wash and a super hot dry and shrink them down. Nancy Maderos, Robin Cheryl, I feel for you in that brutal heat, so glad you were able to figure something out. Ken Gray says, good step in the right direction. I've been waiting for them to break 40% in the efficiency of transparent panels, so 12.3% is a good way to go. I was baffled by this because I don't know, where are you getting 40%? So I had to reply to him and ask him, who's getting 40%? And I was saying the best solar panels are now 23%. Where is 40 coming from? So Ken says, I knew he'd have an answer. 47.1% is the confirmed efficiency rate in laboratory conditions as researchers continue to find ways to translate that efficiency to the average rooftop solar array. Not saying it's available to the average consumer, but I can hope. SunPower and Maxion are at 24%, well, 1% higher than. So what he's talking about, I got curious about this. That 47% is in a laboratory where they use mirrors to focus light on the photocells. I mean, a completely impractical thing. So there's no solar panel that's going to get anywhere near 40%. So what the average is in the low 20s. And if you can get a piece of transparent glass that's doing 12.3, that's doing half that, that's a pretty remarkable thing. Ken also says, glad you're being careful. Mark Rollheiser says, you're doing great, Rob. Mark in Kansas. And Judy's back. Regarding cost of moving, it cost me less than $135 for registration and my little Class C RV and driver's license for 5 years in Arizona. There's a personal income tax, but I found out this year that my annuity from my husband's military service is non-taxable, so I ended up not paying any income tax at all this year. Last year I paid $56. The cost and services and accessibility is very important when looking where to domicile. Agree with every word of it. I will tell you that Judy has a vintage Class C RV, so it's one of the reasons why her the registration is so low. I would guess if it's based on valuation, but I don't know that. So Do your own research. Christy Lena, I'm wondering if you have to change everything. With 2 homes, 2 addresses, you have to keep the primary residence, the one you're the most or least, and how I've been doing for years. I'm not sure I really understand this question. If I change, I'm gonna change from Nevada to either Arizona or New Mexico. Once I find a place and do that, of course, I'm gonna change all my addresses. It's important you tell your bank and your insurance companies where you're located, where you're domiciled. Pretty girl Dottie Dog. Oh, George is a fluffy boy. Solar powered glass, which is what Ken was printing on. She says, intriguing. It is intriguing. Nancy Kane says, you're making great progress. You're a great speaker. Also, I really enjoyed your talk at the RTR. That's the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous here in Quartzsite. Safe travels. Lisa Hall. Hey, Rob, it looks like you're doing great. I was in Quartzsite for the day only, and I was shopping at the store connected to the pizza place. I heard your voice and knew right away that was you. I saw you leaving lunch with your friends. I was going to say hi, but was a little embarrassed. For sure, it was hot there. Thank you, Daryl, for his service. My kids are all in the military. I have high respect. Hey, anytime any one of you see me out in public, stop and say hi. And if I don't stop and say hi and are friendly to you, then shame on me. I much prefer it to people tracking me down where I'm staying and banging on my door. That I'm not a big fan of. Donald Toole says, when will you leave and return? Well, I'm going to leave this Saturday, a week from today, and I'll return tentatively November 1st. Planner Mima. I've seen video and those surgeries are brutal. Agreed. I worked for a veterinarian for 10 years and he described orthopedic surgery as carpentry. Well, that makes sense because they sawed off the top of my femur and then drove a stake into the top of it. Oh. Much of the equipment is similar, saws, hammers, and chisels. You look like you're doing great. It is more painful to think about what they did than what they did in the aftermath. Seriously. Susan B says, wow, that's neat. I really love the idea. That's the solar powered glass. Wanda Hope Wandering, when will you guys move on to cooler temps? A week from today. Right, exactly a week from today at 1:50 p.m., Cheryl and I are going to be following each other on Interstate 10, and I think we're going to land the first night in outside Tucson, and then we'll go on to Deming, New Mexico, and then we'll figure out where to go from there. Lisa Ross says, that's amazing. One of my favorite things, it took people from different cooperating countries to work out the details. That's the powered glass video. 10 rules for changing the world. And Christy Lena says, that's great wisdom. Lisa Ross says, hey, Rob and Cheryl, hugs to Miss Dottie and Clover. Renee Slater says, it's great to see you walking around so well. How awesome to be able to have AC while you're boondocking. Hi, Pup Camper. I'm subscribed. You got another subscriber, Pup Camper 58. PUPCAMPER58. Wow, Cheryl, you have those longevity genes. Your plants sound great. She was talking about her, I think her mom's 98 years old. Fiona Lewis, personal email. Well done. Stay within your boundaries. Remember, when you do that, you will get better faster. Hope to get to see you sometime. I'm not on the road yet, but early next year I will have everything together. Well, good for you. Utah Paul, looking great, Rob. Did you mask your background? Looks like you're growing hair in the back of your head. And he goes on to tell me what software I should use to make it better, and I appreciate that, but I use CapCut, and yeah, it cuts me out of the picture, and sometimes it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And let me explain that a little bit. There are things that I could do in terms of editing and shooting that and software that I can make this look much more professional than it does. Here is my issue with it. If I make this into a job, a hardship, then there's going to be a limited life to me doing this. because I just point the camera and talk and have fun doing it like I am now. And, you know, like those videos that he's talking about where I remove the background, I tap a button on my phone and it's done. So I'm trying to make it easy so I can do these videos indefinitely because it's fun. Endura London, looking stronger and healthier every day. I would like to follow your friend. Is it Pup Camp 58? It's Pup Camper 58, and I gave her a link to it. Robert Nasser says, most of us do not mind at all. So most of us do not mind at all solar stuff, just not being forced by fear. 12% is low. Not bad if I had it on all of my RV windows. Right. You know, with the glass, transparent glass, there's a real opportunity for dual purposes, right? What they were talking about in the article is, you know, all these skyscrapers they're just covered in glass. Can you imagine if all that glass were solar cells? There was, I lived in Sandpoint, Idaho. My brother's been up there for 50 years. I was there for about 5 years. And there's a company there called Solar Roadways. And they've been working on creating roads that are made out of solar panels that you could drive on. And they haven't broken through yet. I don't know if they ever will, but what a great idea, huh? In RV Grandma Charlotte. Thankfully, it's cooling back down. It sure is. I'm actually getting a little chilly. Dog handler, military handler, reunited with a dog. And Ken says that's lovely. It is a great story. Renee Slater says, you can go, Rob. You find the sweet spot. Good luck at the docks. I was going to mention your great t-shirts. Look, full hookups are nice. When we have them, we get spoiled. Off topic, but check out Survivor 48 and the girl with autism. Eva has an emotional breakthrough. I think it's a positive story. And I did see that. I went and looked at it and I considered it, but, you know, I don't know much about Survivor, but I do know it's reality television and there's not a lot of credibility around reality television. So I hesitate to put that forward as a positive news video. That's the only reason I wouldn't do it. John McFarland, always make sure you run a high load over, when you run a high load over a long power cord, that the cord, especially at the head, doesn't heat up too much. Feel it for the same heat every once in a while. Ask me how I know. So that's about the third or fourth person that's mentioned that. And did I, in that video, mention that we were doing that? I thought we did. For sure, I know Cheryl and I talked about it, and she checked those connections multiple times. But I really thought I said that in the video. Maybe not. Ken says, what helped swelling for my mother was having a 2B grip size D support bandage. If you have an ACE bandage, that may work as well. Mom did not have a hip replacement. She did have significant leg swelling. So that's an example of something I would not do unless that was okayed by my doctor. So that's not something he suggested that I do. So I wouldn't do that. Swelling is a natural response to trauma in the body. It's very much part of the healing process. And I did read in a medical journal that there was a time when they were giving medications to reduce swelling aggressively, and outcomes were less favorable when they did that, so they stopped doing it. Dog Handler Reunited, Destiny Cisco says, love this. Dee Cornell says, good morning, Mr. Rob, Dottie, and George. Destiny Cisco, a heart. Maria Fuentes, Rob, glad you're doing much better. Your mind is functioning and planning. Just the idea that you can take a shower daily and not deal with dipping that crap. I think he means dumping the wastewater makes it very appealing. I don't mind dumping wastewater in the desert here, and that's not why I'm going to probably go into town next year. It's actually a practice, a chore that I feel pretty good about. Stacy Jones says the great t-shirts look great. I think they'll look better after I shrink them down and get them more to this size. I think I got the size chart. I gave my height, my weight, and everything. It said you need a double XL, and I just think I think these are either large or XL. It's just, they're too big, but maybe they'll shrink. We'll see. And someone's going to ask me, well, what's the material? I didn't look. If they're cotton, for sure. If there's a cotton polyester mix or something, maybe they won't shrink as much. Pamela Johnson says, good morning, Robin. Fur babies, looking good, young man, slow and steady. Hello, Rob and Doggy and George. Cat, looking cool and gray, go Southern. That was Slim Pickens. And Morpheus says 3,900 running watts. So when I did the video, I was talking about the generator, and I said I couldn't remember. I was guessing at the running watts, and I guessed wrong. And I even mentioned I could be wrong. So he was pointing out that it's 3,900, and he's indeed correct. 3,900 on gas. It's less than that running on propane. Marilyn Decker says, Rob, with the price going up, it may be worthwhile seeing if you'd like it better in town or being in the desert. I think there are pluses and minuses on both, and I think I'll deliver to you next year what the pluses and minuses are to being in town. And I'll compare the costs as well. And you know what? Then there's a hybrid of that too. You can spend part of the time in town, and you can spend part of the time boondocking. Think about that. Joe Lee Janice, Mr. Rob, I like the idea of trying an RV in town for the winter. Take care of yourself. Don't overdo it. I'd like to see more of George. You know, George is a little camera shy. It's hard to get George. I used to have to chase George down with the camera and point it at him. Margaret Hoffer said, stay in town. Lots of new fun activities. I bet there are, Margaret. And if you know of some, do a comment out there and tell me what you have in mind, because I might be interested in those things. Donald Sewell says, can you share your friends' channels? And I did. Pup Camper 58, Sally Forth, and author Deborah Dickinson. I think those are the friends that they're referring to. There's also Frugal RV Gal. There is, who else? There's Adventuring with Amanda. The Dan Van. I can't think of any others just right off the top of my head. Texas Lady says, slow and steady wins the race. Glad you're recovering. Silver Falcon, Tom is the best of the best on YouTube. Question mark, exclamation point. And I just had to say to this commenter, what in the world are you referring to? So Tom, if you're, or Silver Falcon, if you see that, please tell me what you're talking about. Or if someone like Ken knows what he's talking about. Often I'll be baffled and Ken will put a comment out and explain what the other person meant. Alvin Mousseau said, good idea. I think that was on the staying in town idea I had. Dog Handler, awesome. Glad they're back together. That's Donna Aparo. And Gypsy Minstrels, looking good with your recovery. I did 3 months boondocking. I just looked with panic to make sure I'm still recording. It would be a bummer to sit here and talk for like 40 minutes and realize I wasn't recording. And I see the green line, so the audio is getting through. Gypsy Minstrel says, you're looking good with your recovery. I did 3 months boondocking in Quartzsite, and while okay, as cheap as some of the RV parks there, I'm thinking it might be worth it to not have to pack up and go dump and fill, etc. Monthly rates are usually without electric, so would just use my solar. I have an electric trike, and I would use it more of in town. Food for thought, especially me being on the wrong side of 70. Rare Alaskan plane crash. That's the most recent positive news video. And Ken says, community coming together. Dee Cornell says, good morning, Rob, Dottie, and George. Ken Gray says, remember getting one of those water blisters when I got stabbed by a branch running through a thicket when I was much younger. Dr. Mom put a butterfly bandage on the stab, and we just used an ace bandage to compress the fluid pocket when it happened. All youth just rub some dirt on it and walk away. And Pup Camper responded, says, that's for sure, Ken. A little dirt never hurt anybody. Pup Camper, I'm looking at you over there in your rig. Don't you come over here and rub dirt on my wound. Montana wife says, I can understand the appeal of staying in an RV park. It should be a different experience. I think, however, I would miss the people that I'm used to camping around. Is that a concern? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Pup Camper says, great information, Rob. I'll back up and I'll explain. There's other people that you know that might be considering doing the same thing. So that's why I say maybe not. MWB229, get better. Thank you, MWB229. And Ken says, well, it's nice to be thought of as a hero. Watching a 25-minute isn't that stressful. You're doing great. I think it's a 25-minute video. I said, if you made it all this way, you're my hero. And Ken says, well, that's not really hero. 25 minutes isn't hero territory. Maybe 70 is. Tamara Lemon says, you are grounded, mister. Dottie has no cares. Please take care of yourself. Nancy Madera says, are you going to sit outside today? Yes. Yes. Judy, wow, what a beautiful incision. You should have no problem wearing your bikini. Judy. So I said, can I borrow yours? And she said, it may be a little small. And Daryl says, Daryl says you probably need a fresh Brazilian wax first, Judy. Pete Diaz, love the RV park idea. Going to be some great content. Can't wait. Chris B, 7465, prayers for continued good healing. I have the AARP UHC plan, G Medicare supplement as well, and I pay out of pocket is my Part D. All I pay out of pocket is my Part D deductible, which I think is $258. I had a shoulder replacement 4 months ago at Stanford in California, and everything has been covered in full, including PT twice a week. I recovered in my Class B Ram ProMaster in a rented RV space near the PT clinic for the first 6 weeks until I could drive, taking Uber to PT. Then I went back to boondocking on the streets during the week for PT appointments and traveling to fun places on the coast: Santa Cruz, Pacific Grove, Capitola, Carmel, Monterey, Half Moon Bay, Bodega Bay, and Jenner. Wow, Chris, cool. I will clarify, I said I had UHC, I don't. UHC is my Part D. My ACE insurance is my Part G. Hip replacement on the road. 10 days after. Hey, Rob, hugs to Dottie and George from Lisa. Donald Sewell. No trailer park for me. I love COE camping in near moving water. Well, I was COE means Corps of Engineers campgrounds. I love them too. I was a camp host in one, but there's none of those in Quartzsite. It's not an option. Donald Sewell says United Health has a problem in Georgia. Had to use Aetna. And guys, it's not so bad. 42 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this one today, and I sure enjoyed spending some time outside in the fresh air and talking to you. And next thing I'm going to do, this will be released tomorrow morning, and next thing I'm going to do here is find me a positive news story to tell you about. So I'll release that in this video tomorrow morning, first thing. Take care, and thanks for joining me. I appreciate you.